Have you ever experienced a miracle firsthand? Like having a pair of hands steady your ladder before you crack your head open on cobblestones, or getting a strong feeling that you should immediately call your friend before she passes. These are moments of divine intervention, and these encounters we experience are managed by angels and spirit guides. Spirit guides, they are our support team. Who are they? How do we talk to them? How do you know who they are? Stick with us until the end of the video to hear what Archangel Michael has to say about working with your guides.
Hey, Mystics. If you're new here, welcome. If you already know us, welcome back.
I'm Susie Parker Goins.
I'm Lisa Stewart.
And I'm Kai Bertrand. Welcome to the Mystic Mosaic podcast.
We're here to help clarify, illuminate, normalize, and encourage you as you develop your gifts, so you can confidently build a sustainable lifestyle for you, your family, and even your career.
We're providing information to use as a launching point for your own spiritual journey. We're not doctors, and we won't be giving medical advice. Plus, we won't be giving free readings. The information provided here is for educational purposes only. Let's start the conversation. What are spirit guides? Spirit guides are beings of a higher frequency who come in to help us grow, to help us learn. Now, some have been in body and some have never been in body. They are positive in nature and make themselves known to us in a variety of ways. It's not always just this bright, shining light coming at you. They can show up in so many different forms and ways that, yeah, you got to pay attention. Like, let's see. The guides show up in different forms. So you can have an archangel or any other kind of archangel. Archetypes, and that's something that Carl Jung defined as being a part of the humanity's collective unconsciousness or a memory of universal experiences, like specialists or experts, whether it's a warrior or medical expert or something like that. They can be deities, depending on your cosmology, any kind of god or goddess, ascended masters, or other enlightened beings. You know, we're talking like Kuan Yin and Mother Mary and Saint Germain. You know, there are a lot of saints who can be spirit guides. Your ancestors can be your spirit guides. And it's not just limited to a human form. Spirit animals can show up to guide you on your path. The elementals, anything that holds energy, which when you think about it, it means everything. And they can be here for a long-term purpose or just for a short term, just for a single task. They can be here for as long as you need them.
So I've got a question. What is the difference between spirit guides, angels, and guardian angels? Aren't they the same thing?
They're all aspects of Source. When working with clients, Source presents itself in ways that make the sitter, your client, feel more comfortable. So in other words, you can have one that looks like, you know, when you classify it, it's a spirit guide. When you see them, it's like, oh, that's probably an angel. And then you have the guardian angel, which is, oh, here's an angel who's always near me. You know, they come in. There can be one that stays with you all your life, which is typically called a guardian angel. And others can come in depending on the situation, such as guides for grief, guides to help you with your gratitude, and guides for manifestation. As Susie mentioned, some have been in body before, such as, you know, the Marys, Mary Magdalene, and the Mother Mary. Also Metatron, Sandalphon, and Kuan Yin were all in body at one point. Some have never been embodied. Most angels have not been embodied. And then, of course, the galactics, which we'll talk a little bit more about later.
Oh, great summary, Kai. I also know that guides can take on a multitude of forms. So the first one would be angels, right? The different types of angels would be your archangels, and also long-term angels like guardian and birth angels, as both Kai and Susie talked about. And then there's also these short-term task-specific angels as well. Next up, we've got earth angels. So talking about task specific, earth angels embody humans who help people out in a jam and then vanish. I know I've had a few in my life show up. They may or may not know that they're an earth angel. And sometimes they get deployed by your guides. You can also ask your guides for help, and then they will send someone to help you. Kind of like, if you're stuck out on the side of the road and you need gas, maybe somebody comes along and they got a gas can. My particular earth angel story includes back when I was young, I was in my 20s and I was commuting from Kalamazoo to my home in mid-Michigan. And I was really tired. And I knew that there was a halfway point coming up and I needed to stop and take a nap. Well, I did. I made it to the rest area, locked my doors, took a brief nap, probably about 20 minutes or so, woke up and realized I had not shut off my lights, which meant that I had burned out my battery. So fortunately, I was at a truck stop where a couple came out and they helped, provide a little more juice to my battery. And I was utterly grateful. I could tell that they were in distress themselves and they needed to, depart quickly to go settle a personal matter. But I was utterly grateful that they were there to help me, jumpstart my car so that I could continue on my way. So that's one of my earth angel stories. Susie, don't you have one?
That is so wild because that's one of my earth angel stories. My son was still in a car seat and my battery had died in the middle of a credit union parking lot. They couldn't help me, liability issues. And this gentleman, my head was on the steering wheel, just going, oh, saying the words. And this guy walks up, he knocks on the window, can I help you? And he jumped my car. And the point that we made earlier is that they vanished. This guy just disappeared after that happened because I went to thank him. Another time, it was a Sunday. I was going to a dance class, and this guy showed up and he said, that bus doesn't run on Sundays. I'm like, I didn't know that. So he was talking, he walked me to the next bus stop and he was so excited because he got to see his girlfriend and blah, 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 blah. He got me on the bus and I turned around to wave at him and he was gone.
Wow.
It really does just remind you about how expansive and amazing things are. And it's not limited to people you don't know, right, Kai?
Yeah, that's true. It could be your ancestors. I always call my ancestors when I need protection or if there's a decision that I'm trying to make that I don't know what to do with it. I'll get really good suggestions or I'll get hints or I'll get, pushed in a particular direction. So that is a source for you as well. A lot of people forget that, even though your ancestors are long dead, that doesn't mean that you can't access their wisdom. So that is definitely guidance that is waiting for you if you haven't already thought about that. And then of course, nature's all around us, because everything is a extension of source. So you can look at, your animal totems, think about insects, plants, birds. You also have your power animals, if that's what, if that's part of your cosmology. Think about trees and forests and mountains, ponds, lakes, and rivers. When I was in training with a shaman, he was telling us a story about how, this one guy kept going to this one mountain and finally the shaman told him, well, don't go there because the mountain doesn't like you. Because every time the guy would go there, he'd have a problem. He'd trip or he'd fall down or, something would happen. He'd lose something or whatever. Right. And so it's things like that. So if you feel an affinity toward a mountain or something, or if you feel like you need to stay away from a place, there's a reason for that. So that is also guidance of a way, in a way. So think about that. And then you also have the different gods and goddesses, depending on your cosmology. So if you're really into like Egyptian gods or the Greek or the Roman gods, all that stuff matters. You can work with them as well. Don't forget about the saints. Again, depending on your cosmology, if you were, if you grew up religious and you understand who the saints are, you can utilize them as well. Just because you're like, even if you're not necessarily practicing, that doesn't mean you're cut off from the from the system.
Good
So you can
point.
still call on them if you want to. And of course, ascended masters. If you are a student of figuring out who the ascended masters are and what their specialties are, you can definitely call on them as well.
Interesting. I want to bring up something that seems to be in contention with a lot of practitioners across the globe, and that is this this archetype called the runners. They might be elementals, but we'll get more into that later. But let us know in the comments, what's your perspective on runners? Are they angels, or are they spirit guides, or are they elementals that help with finding you a parking space? And then, of course, we've got other aspects that come from other realms and dimensions, right? We've got the elementals, we've got the fae, which would include dragons, fairies, elves, and gnomes. And we've got a few more. Susie, before I launch into that one.
No, I have worked with spirit guides from other dimensions. Some of my first channeling was a group called the Amahi, but we're also looking at star seeds or the galactics. I've worked with multidimensional beings and interdimensional beings. And a star seed is someone who is descended from a heavenly body. That's not the phrase I want, but from a different galaxy or a different star system, like the galactics. And the most common ones you'll hear about or have heard about are the Pleiadians, they're the Orions, the Lyrans, there's even the blue avian species. I've worked with somebody who I was channeling blue avians for them. That's another episode, but just know that it's okay to have guides that are not in human form, which leads us to ask, why? Why do we have spirit guides? Okay.
Yeah, spirit guides exist to help us on our path. That's what they're for. They show up in ways to make them easier to communicate with. We want them, or they want us to be more comfortable and better able to relax in the energy. They put you at ease to open the energy flow, which allows for lessons to go more smoothly. Even if you choose to learn a lesson the hard way, guides are there to support you, because they don't judge you, and they have lots and lots of patience. They're always with you. So, they're basically there to walk your path with you, however you choose to do it. They advise you to say, like, should I do this? Should I do that? They'll tell you what they think, but of course, free will, you can do whatever you want. But yeah, that's what they're there for. And so, yeah.
You're watching the Mystic Mosaic podcast. Hit the like button and subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell to be notified when we upload another video. It helps YouTube share the episode with others who want to learn more about this topic. Let's get back into it.
So I've got a question. How do I meet my spirit guides, my angels, and my guardian angels?
Well, ask. That's usually the great big, general thing. It also, you ask them, but it also depends on how you work, how you maneuver through your life. So, you can start a conversation. I'll sit there and, like, I've argued with them in the car. Go do this. I don't want to. Please, no. Oh man. So, it's one of those things. But you can, those times you have the shower thoughts, deep thoughts while you're taking a shower. Drive time, like I just said, it's a big time for me to open up. The first time I met this big blue warrior, Kai pointed out to me, I'm driving along and I'm talking to him. You can also, but I'm more casual. I'm very casual on it. You can develop a ritual or have a ceremony. We have already talked about ceremony as a special occasion, and ritual is the repetition of it. So you can call them in that way. And in the course of the ceremony or the ritual, you can make an offering to them. I don't eat everything on my plate because I scrape it off into the compost pile for my ancestors. I'm not going to say my grandmother has things to say about the food I eat, but there it is. I'm making the offerings there. You can do meditations. There are a lot of websites out there, including bluelightninghealing.com, where you have meditations where you can meet the guides, or you can create that sacred space so that you can call in the guides to talk to you. Using divination tools. whether it's using a pendulum, talking to cards, what is there a tool out there that you feel comfortable using? And then finally, there is that situational help me, and they will come in because they work with consent. They are about, like Kai said, it's about free will and sovereignty. And there may be an exception, like during the help me, you're still asking for it, but it could be an extreme circumstance where they will help you.
Or they won't. They'll just stand around and laugh and wait for you to figure it out on your own.
Feel like mine do, but I've also had guides who sat over in the corner going, "Are you ready? Can we get this ball going?" Like I said, everybody's guides are individual to you because it's how it works best for you.
Yeah, no, and that's true, because I have the same thing. Like sometimes my guides are like, anytime you're ready to get this ball going, we'll go.
Dragons checking their watches is pretty hysterical. They're just like,
with your guides, like have a conversation with them. It's like, make it a normal thing. Just like you're talking to a person that's standing in the room with you, because they're actually standing in the room with you. So just talk to them. And you don't need a mediator. And you can do this while you're having your morning coffee, during your meditation or a trance. If you're daydreaming, you can actually speak to them by setting an intention before you sleep. You can communicate with them through automatic writing or journaling. You can, if you channel, you can actually do some of that and just kind of free talking with them. Don't forget, you can also speak to fairies. You can also talk to plants and trees and flowers. And then of course there's, you can use tools like pendulums and cards and things like that. And then the information that they come back to you with can show up in a variety of ways. Of course, through any of your clair abilities. So you can hear something, feel something, see something, that might give you your answer. It also can come through symbols, or you just knowing something. And it could also come through signs, like you asked, see, like you asked for something. Look for them everywhere, because you never know where they will show up. And then Lisa, you had a story about bluebirds, didn't you?
About what?
Oh yeah,
about
bluebirds.
I did have a story about bluebirds. That's funny, because I think actually in the end, TLDR, I think in the end it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I had asked my guides for certainty on a question that I had. And I said, I want to see 3 bluebirds. And the other day, the 3 of us were doing a little bit of info gathering. And I know that when we were talking about the galactics, my spirit guide, I believe, is Blue Avian. Yeah, and the Blue Avian is tapping me on the shoulder going, put me in there, put me in there. And I'm like, Susie, we got to put in Blue Avian, got to put Blue Avian. But I couldn't remember the name. I could see the face, and I was like, so many thoughts at one time, and I'm typing in, okay, bluebird. And I'm like, oh shit. And then suddenly I see all these bluebirds, from the Google search. And I'm like, okay, I think that's my sign. But later on, I felt like maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I had to go and ask for another question with another series of animals, and did not give my answer. So I think I now have my answer. That's the long of the short of it. But thanks for that, Kai.
Well, because you said that you get a lot of, that when you did the bluebird thing, you got like a ton of them, right? And that goes to the next thing, which is repetition.
Yeah.
And, because a lot of times, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but sometimes I'm a little slow, like I might see something and not think anything of it. And then I'll see it again. And then it takes me like 3 or 4 times to like see something. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should pay attention now.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I'm a little slow in the draw. So, but repetition can happen with numbers, phrases, and sometimes people. Like in my case, it'll be like, I usually get 3 people tell me the same thing. You should. It's like, and I'm like, and then another person who, like, people who don't know each other, don't know anything about anything, will say like almost the exact same words.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, okay, I got it. And then the other thing that people look for are angel numbers.
Mhm.
And at least you said something about 333s.
I did. I do remember that story. It's interesting because as we become spiritually awakened, we start learning the different affectations of how spirituality affects us and how we can work with it. And of course, one of the very first things are the angel numbers, the repetition of numbers. And so as I'm getting to know them, I remember one day I live in an apartment complex and we have a room where we can pick up packages. The apartment managers will pull in those boxes that are delivered and scroll on with Sharpie the numbers of our apartments. So that way we can see exactly what box belongs to us without putting on our glasses and checking out names and addresses. So I type in my code, I open the door, and I see a mountain of boxes with the number 333 written across all of them. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. Okay, thank you very much. I get you. Not lost on me. So I guess now I have another question, which is, how do I know it is my guides?
Well, first off, you had 333 written all over the place. Say that's a no-brainer. Yeah. But when you're talking to your guides, you're calling them in for your highest trust and compassion or for the best outcome. You ask them to show you signs. Yours, that 333 box thing was pretty improvisational, but you can set the details for how the signs come up. And you got to make sure it's going to be something that you'll know to pay attention to. People can call for angel feathers all over. I was walking back from taking my kids to school once, and it was like I thought a seagull had exploded because there were feathers, like one after the other on my walk home. Okay, so next time we won't have like naked seagulls around the area, but something that's going to catch your attention. And then once you set out what signs you want them to send you, pay attention. Pay attention. It's going to show up in unusual ways, whether it's, feathers on the ground, or if you're still looking for feathers, look at the clouds, look at the signage, look and think about what you're thinking about. Or it could be people, like Lisa said, or Kai was talking about 3 different people. Well, it takes her 3 people to do it. So you're going to remember, though, that it's not always going to be this bright light shining at you, because guides, we want to normalize those relationships with our guides. So understand, please, that the guide is not always pretentious and stuffy. You may want your guides to be that way. I don't, so it's going to be a message from them that does uplift you. They're not going to poop on you. They are not going to beat you down. Your guides uplift you. They leave you feeling safer, calmer, more clarity, hopeful. They will offer you other ways to look at it. So a differing perspective, because nothing's written in stone, because we all have sovereignty. They will remind you that you do, in fact, have free will. That's why they like to play with how they manifest for you. They'll always give you advice that's of the highest good. Okay, so once you start working with them, what follows, Kai?
So after working with your guides, say thank you. Just gratitude.
Of course.
Say it, show it, offerings, pay it forward, and do what is asked of you. Provided it's not, if it's something that you feel like you can't do, or whatever. Free will is always in play no matter what. But if it's something that you can do, just go ahead and do it.
So I have another question, and I've heard this question a lot. Can you break your guides?
What happens is we get in our own way is what it really comes down to. If you're not getting the results you want, it's because, if you had an intention, it was unclear, or it was set incorrectly. It could also be that your intention was corrupted by desperation. Because sometimes people do this thing where like, I really want that, I really want that, I really, and it's just like, no, you have to be in a position where you're calm and it's clear and, you understand what's happened. So it's like clear question, clear answer.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And it could be that you're not ready for the result. Are you not deserving? It could be a limiting belief. The other thing to consider is like not everything is a sign. Sometimes people see things like different letters mixed together and they think, oh, the message is actually this. It's like, no, so it's like Freud used to say, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. It's not anything. You have to ask for a sign for it to be a sign.
Exactly.
And then think about how you're interpreting the messages. Like some people will do this thing like, I don't like that message, so I'm just gonna do it again. Like, you pull out a different tarot card or something if you're doing a card reading.
I call that oracle abuse.
And then sometimes the answer is no, or not now. Because, divine timing is not human timing. I know we've covered this. So you have to understand that if, just because you want something right now doesn't mean you're going to get it right now.
Yeah.
You may get it later, or you may never get it. Whatever is for your highest good, that's what it will be.
Yeah. So when is your guide not a guide?
So we're looking at other beings wanting to come in and cause trouble for you, like the demons and attachment. So if you have a guide who is asking you to do something unreasonable or something incredibly stupid, no, that's not a guide. You can just nope right out of there. Your highest good guides will not ask you to hurt yourself or to harm someone else. They're not going to put you down. They are not going to call you names or call you stupid. And true spirit guides will never manipulate you or gaslight you, bully you, or pull a power play on you.
So now that we have shared the differences between angels and guides, we're going to do a 180. Let's talk a little bit about source. What is source? Kai?
Source is everything and nothing at the same time. Guides are aspects of source, and spirit guides are aspects of you. Practitioners may tell you that you are part of source, that there's really no clear delineation between all of it. It's all the same. Don't get hung up on names or labels. Because remember, like, we're coming at this from a perspective of a limited worldview. Yeah. Like Lisa considers source to be a resource because that's how she thinks of it. And we were having a discussion earlier and I said, yeah, it is a resource, but it's more than that. So don't allow yourself to think that source is just one thing, because source is everything, but it's kind of been broken up into different things with different functions and all that. We tend to compartmentalize things as humans, just so that we can understand them. Because if something's so vast as source, if we didn't try to section it off into things that make sense to us, we would never actually understand how it works. And so for us, that's how we understand things. But keep in mind that source is bigger than that. It is beyond our comprehension. There are things about source we will never understand. And that's okay, because what we can grasp is plenty. And there are so many things about source that you will continue to learn as you grow. And the other thing to think about is that sometimes people think, like, when they're calling on their ancestors, that it's just their like immediate ancestors, like grandma or great grandma, and even just limited to one side of the family. But you have to remember that your generational line is humongous. Your line could be, you could be descended from some of the greatest warriors in history. You know, like the greatest politicians, the greatest people ever in history could be in your line. And you may not know because, you know, they're so far back. But once you understand that and you want to call on your ancestors, if you want to call an ancestor for a specific reason, call on the great orators, call on the great scientists, call on the great warriors that are part of your lineage, and they will come to help you. You know, so don't, that's a limited understanding of human, you know, because they think just immediate family. It's just like, no, we go back way back.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't hesitate to call anybody or call for anybody in your family line that can help you with whatever you're doing, because you have a huge line that can help you with your ancestors.
That's fantastic advice, Kai. Thank you very much. We hope that you've enjoyed our chat about angels and spirit guides and how to work with them. Next up, let's hear what Archangel Michael has to say. If you have a question or if there's a topic that you would like us to cover, let us know. And please consider supporting us by picking up Kai's Energy Shields audio course at handsonfire.buzz, getting your copy of my 2023 digital calendar that includes energy planning and recording your angelic conversations at cocreatemagic.com. And lastly, do not forget to listen to Susie's meditations about meeting a spirit guide at bluelightninghealing.com.
So one of the things I do is I channel, and that means bringing source through in a way to manifest in which you're comfortable with. And that's what the light language has been. But, you know, I've got spirit guides. Okay, everything is source. Spirit guides are aspects of source. Since you are energy and you are source, spirit guides are aspects of you. But we have different flavors of it. So I want to do some light language based in that energy of spirit guides. So yeah, let's look at Michael first. See, for me, Michael is the one who sits there with his arms slinging back and he's like, yo, how you doing? But that's my perception of Michael. Talk to your guides, ask for their help. Can't emphasize that enough because they're not going to swoop in. But let's look at Michael's energy in light language. Na me na ma na om na e na om na e om Om. Love you.
Until next time, stay grounded, stay shielded, stay magical.